Standing up in San Antonio. This is, according to Callus, episode 638. Getting ready to kick off for the state convention. Yes, that's right. The Republican Party's State of Texas convention is going live in San Antonio tomorrow morning, and I am here to participate. All right. So the plan is I'm going to try and get an episode done every night, the night before the next day. So it's Sunday night. I'm sitting overlooking the Alamo Dome, I guess. Yeah, that's Alamo Dome. And I can see the Grand Hyatt out my window. I'm here because the future matters. Fighting for the Republic matters. So I guess I'll just go ahead and title today's episode, Saving the Republic, One Convention at a Time. Or something more pithy than that, but nevertheless. All right. I'm also going to go forward without a plan. The reason being is there's been a lot of stuff that's gone on. And it's disappointing, but not surprising all at the same time. And I want to do a shout out to my man, Tony Ortiz. He managed to simultaneously irritate all the right people and all the wrong people with two entirely different stories he put out there. And you can say what you want about Tony, but he's usually spot on, and he gets his stuff right when he goes to press with it, if you will. Now, unfortunately, some of this is somewhat damaging to my man, Abraham George. And we'll spend a little time talking about that. But I also need to pause here and remind you, the big difference, the thing that you can do for me is to like, share, and subscribe to this program. Follow me on your podcatcher of choice. As I have always said, this show is always going to be about what I think I know, and what I think about what I know. Occasionally I'm going to get something wrong, and if I do, hey, feel free. Send me a text, give me a call, send me an email. I'm not that hard to find, and I actually do function in real life 99% of the time in Collin County, Texas. Well, maybe 95% of the time. But nevertheless, you can find me there, and I consider myself a liberty activist first and foremost, and this is just one avenue that I advocate for liberty. So I ask you to come along for the ride. You can find me on your social media of choice. I have a page and a group at Facebook. I am a pro at Gab, and I still drop in over at MeWe. That being said, here we go on with the show. There is a local club called Restoring the Republic. And I like that. I think that's a great name. I think it's very emotive, right? We want to restore what was lost. The sad thing is at a certain point, we have to realize that what was lost cannot be recovered. We have to move on to the next thing. You know, this is one of the things that if I was going to criticize the so-called Christian nationalists, right, that would probably be it. You guys are trying to go back to something that probably never existed, but they make a fairly strong argument that they're just looking for some semblance of order, some semblance of a Christian nation as somebody might recognize it. So to them, I say kudos and carry on. I'm with you in spirit, if not action. Because I believe they're on the right track, I defend them. Because I believe that Abraham George is a good man and is doing the right thing as much as he possibly can, I support him. I think he is the best opportunity we have to move forward in the state of Texas. Now, sadly, this means that some people have been taking advantage of some misfortunes. I'm not going to take the time to rehash them. I'm not going to give the credit where credit is due as so far as the accusations. But I will say, sometimes it's appropriate for a man to be angry. Sometimes it's an appropriate response to get quite animated and take action. Sometimes even violence is warranted. Now, I'm not certain of all the details, and I don't know everything about it. And even since the last time I spoke of this issue, and I have spoken to Abraham a little bit about it, from my understanding, there was no, in fact, violence of action. Threat thereof, perhaps, yes. But again, under the circumstances, entirely understandable. And it is really disappointing to me that there are males out there that would dare to talk to a man about protecting his family. When, let's face it, there's a whole lot of males out there that aren't interested in doing anything to protect their family. These are the same males that can't protect the school district, the same males that can't protect the ladies' bathroom, the same males that would just compromise away the entire country. Fortunately for us, Abraham George is not one of those males. He is a man. Does that mean he's perfect? No. Does that mean he's always done everything perfectly? No. But there's a certain amount of trust that has been engendered over the time that I've known him that I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt. I'm going to give him reasonable doubt. So you can level an accusation, you can put a letter out, you can say whatever you want to say, but the fact of the matter is he's been convicted of nothing. Kind of sounds like a couple of other elected officials that we know right now that have been convicted of nothing. You know, the former president, soon to be next president, the attorney general, right? And at a certain point, it just makes sense to please certain things out to make them go away. Oh, wait, that's, I think, what the guy in HD 61 did, only now he's trying to say that he was never convicted of anything, and his plea bargain didn't indicate that he was guilty. So I'm not really sure how that works. I know there's, at least two different sets of rules. The rules for we the people, and the rules for them, right? They don't look at it that way. They are the we, and we are the thee. We don't get those same rules. We don't get that same credit, respect, protection. And it's disappointing because that's not how our country was set up. That's not how the republic is supposed to work. And, as somebody that's given an oath to defend the Constitution, as somebody that takes that seriously, as somebody that is very active in politics, it's very disappointing to see that our government continuously disregards the very people that it is supposed to be serving and protecting. Now, again, we talk a little bit about the runoffs and the different elections that are still going on. And it's not lost on me that the hyperbole and the accusations and the cross accusations and the craziness is in full bloom. But my own county, Collin County, I have to ask, where has your head gone? I mean, between the guy that talks about one guy's backside entirely too much and the other person trying to put out a campaign indicating they're all for unity, yet won't even try and calm down some of her supporters. I mean, it's sad. It's really sad. And then we've got a battle royale over a judgeship in many cases. And then the SB12, SBOE 12 election is just gotten way out of hand. Folks, we're all supposed to be on the same team. No, we're not all exactly the same. We don't all believe everything the same. But when the chips are down, we're going to be on the same team. We're going to be on the same side on most of these issues. And you need to quit acting like you're defending the Alamo when it's somebody that's ostensibly on the same team. The need to purge people is just like this overwhelming problem that exists within our party. And no more so, at least at the moment, than in Collin County. Nope. Our leadership's not grassroots enough, says some of the grassroots. Then the guys that have been around long enough say, no, actually, we are all grassroots. We just stuck it out long enough and did enough work that we've actually become leaders. And now that we're leaders, we see the wisdom that some of the previous leaders had and why maybe it may have appeared that some of those actions or those positions were quote-unquote establishment. They were just dealing with the system the way that it was. And for whatever reason, people can't seem to understand that. They don't want to grasp it. They don't grok the situation. They just figure if they stamp their feet long enough or yell loud enough that we're going to just all capitulate and give them what they want. Well, I'm sorry. I'm not built that way. That's not convincing to me personally. If you give me a good logical argument, a fact-filled reason why something's bad or why something's negative, okay, I might change my mind, or I might pivot slightly to accept that you have valid arguments. Most issues that I deal with, I can probably argue both sides as well or better than most of the proponents. And that's sad. I would expect that if you feel super strongly about something, that you would be well versed on it and you would be much more capable of giving appropriate arguments as to why you're right or why that's wrong or why these issues are, anathema to the way the Constitution ought to work. And while we're talking about the Constitution, yes, just so we're clear, folks, this show was never rehearsed, and this one is even more so off the cuff, because I got a couple more things I want to touch on that are not necessarily directly related. So, when you have a government that doesn't even bother to follow the Constitution, let me ask you, do you still have a Constitution? If one side quits playing by the rules in its entirety, are you bound to still play by those same rules? That's a fair question. You need to think about it. I know what the knee-jerk answer is, right? You want to always do the right thing. You always want to be on the right side. But sometimes you have to win. Because if you can't win, nothing else matters. You can be right all day long, but if you're sitting in jail, it doesn't matter. You can be right all day wrong, but if you're locked out of every discussion and every argument or every interaction, it doesn't matter. We have to get our story told. We've got to get our vision cast. We've got to make a noticeable impact. So as I look forward to serving on the Platform Resolutions Committee this week, and I think about all the various things that are going to come up before me, and I talked a little bit about this on Friday, right? I think there's about 5 major issues that are going to have some fights, if you will. And this is something that is near and dear to me. Is I have a lot of friends, allies, however you want to phrase it, they have very strong opinions on the Convention of States. And I keep trying to caution, particularly the people that are opposed, that a lot of these people that support it are our friends. They're people we work with, that we like, that we trust. And are you really wanting to break fellowship? Are you really wanting to cause injury and a fight over something that is detrimental to a relationship, is detrimental to a working ability to get things done? Are you willing to let that be the deal breaker? I mean, I stand strongly on one side of this equation, but I have friends on both sides. And I try my best to negotiate a truce or at least a workable solution. And I don't understand why that's so hard for people to do. They just naturally assume the worst because of, you're going to support this or you're going to oppose this, so you're absolutely my enemy. No. We got to look past this, folks. If you want to hold the line, if you want to make a difference, right here in Texas, right here in Collin County, right here in McKinney, you have to be willing to work with people that are on your team, even if you're not 100% in lockstep, because let me tell you, that's never going to happen. You have to be willing to work with people on your team. And this will be quite evident in the next few days where I'm serving on platform. And I'm going to talk to and listen to testimony by a lot of well-meaning, good-intentioned, solid, conservative, Christian patriots, whatever you want to call them or describe them. And they're going to come in basically asking for the Republican Party to ask government to do things that government ought not do at all. And that's tough, right? Because there may be occasions where we just need to understand and expect that the other side doesn't respect any rules. The other side is looking to wipe us out. We need to be able to get, while we have power, while we still have control of government, we need to maybe make some changes to prevent those things from happening long term. We need to take a proactive stance, right? An active defense by going on offense. Something. We have to do something different because what we're doing now is not working. I look at the idea of, school choice. Now, me personally, I'd be just fine if they whole system went away tomorrow. But I know that's not fair and it's not right. I know that's going to affect a lot of other good, otherwise solid people that are dependent upon the idea that they have government schools for where their children can go and get a nominal education. But the problem is those schools have been usurped by people that are not, in fact, educating your children. They don't care about anything other than the programming that they're giving you. And I know that sounds terrible. I know it sounds unfair and that there's people rolling their eyes right now or perhaps dismissing what I'm saying, but there's tons of evidence. It's right out there in front of all of us, letting you know that this is what's going on. This is how they feel about us. This is what they're going to do. They just don't care. They want to be in charge and they want to manipulate the future. They want to dictate the terms. They want to make sure that they tell you how your children ought to be, how your life ought to be, how you ought to be able to function in society. And I, for one, I'm not interested in that. I don't want to play those games. I want to push back. I want to fight back. I want to make sure that everybody on my team understands that the guy that's 5 or 10% off is still on our team, right? The whole idea of a big tent, right? You fight over the things that are uber important and you just kind of cast aside those minor things, those things that really don't matter in the short term, or quite frankly, even in the long term. Most often, there is an underlying issue here, because every time I say this and every time that I caution people that we have to be wise about doing that, there's this misconception that also means that you should never pay attention to those things. You should never push back. That you shouldn't let these little things become an issue. Well, the thing is, they are an issue. They're just not a primary issue. They are something that needs to be dealt with, but that shouldn't interfere with everything else that's going on. There are concerns that need to be addressed, right? There are certain things, like even say your church, your temple, whatever, and there's different things that are happening there, and you could say, well, this is a minor issue. It doesn't matter. Well, those minor issues eventually pile up, just like that stuff in your church or your temple that you might have observed. That happens in politics all the time. Well, this person's off on 3 or 4 issues. They're not deal breakers for me, so I'm just going to turn a blind eye to them. But what happens when that 3 or 4 issues becomes 8, 10, or 12? Or what if now maybe it's not a primary issue or a major issue or a deal breaker, but it's significant issues, right? How long do you continue to turn a blind eye? But here's the thing. Rather than ostracize, rather than attack, rather than paint them as your enemy, why not engage? Why not talk to them? Why not try and figure out what their rationale is or their reasoning is? Why do they hold to this view? Why do they suspect that we're wrong about something? What can be done to come to a semblance of agreement? Is there something there that we can still work with? And I think this gets lost on a lot of people. They're just afraid to ever deviate from some stance that they have, no matter how old or arcane or whatever. It doesn't matter. I hold this view and I can never ever change this view. Well, that's dangerous, especially in a term or a time where the very terms that we operate under are changed on a daily basis. We're dealing in a world that doesn't know what's what. They can't tell you what a woman is. They can't tell you where babies come from. They want you to believe all sorts of things that are clearly crazy. And what's worse is we've got our own people that like to play games and push back in reverse rather than just standing on affirmative truth. Rather than holding on the line on things that can be proven, things that do matter, things that can have a direct impact, things that we can work together on. No, we want to go fight about these little things. Now, look, I like a good argument as much as anybody. I love having a deep discussion when they're actually fruitful with anybody over anything, really. But ideally, we need to prioritize what we're doing. And I think that's our biggest fail. Our biggest fail is we've got people that are ready to take the job, that are more than capable, that are highly qualified, that have shown success, and because of something that we don't like that happened, or because of some possible misstep or personal issue that, personally offends you, rightfully or wrongfully, we want to immediately dismiss an attack. That's counterproductive, folks. That's really counterproductive. I shudder to think where we're going to be if we continue doing this. I've talked to some other people that I know in the last few days, and I said, well, Collin County is a couple of years from being full-on purple. And to me, that's shameful. There's no reason for it. I know the school districts are aligned with Democrat progressive values. I know a lot of churches just are weak and refuse to do anything to defend all that is good and right. But we, the people, still have a majority. We, the people, still raise our children. We, the people, still speak to our friends and our family. And we know better. We know progressive things just don't work long term. We know that socialism has never worked. Not unless it's strongly subsidized by somebody else. We know that communism has never worked. We know that almost all the isms fail. Yet, we allow our children, we allow our extended family to go along with it. But rather than attack them, rather than fight with them over this stuff, why aren't we asking questions? Why aren't we addressing them to see what it is that they understand and maybe guide them into a better educational situation? They've been programmed for 12 to 16 years to think one way, even though perhaps their family's telling them something different, or maybe even they go to a good church where that church doesn't shy away from important issues and values. But we have to fight the good fight. But we have to be smart about how we do it. And again, here I am going to go listen to a bunch of people that are going to come in and ask me to support the idea of having government go in and make certain things happen, or prevent certain things from happening. And while I understand some of it, and obviously there are some exceptions to the rule, as a general idea, government doesn't fix things. More government only makes things worse. And these are the conservatives, these are the Christians, these are the Republicans. They ought to know this. And I think most of them, they know that in their heart, but they live under the world, but this is the exception. But this is my special issue that we have to change the rules for, and that's just dangerous. It's foolish too, but it's very dangerous. Because everybody thinks they're the little snowflake. We mock the millennial snowflakes, yet our very people behave that same way. And it's depressing, really. Because we don't need to do this. We don't need to behave like this. We don't need to act like this. We're better than this. And honestly, few things are more disappointing than when people make accusations or say things about other people without even giving them a courtesy call, without even checking with them to see what their side of the story is. That they just run and put out baseless accusations. And I can say this because it's happened to me. I know plenty of other people that it's happened to. And we've lost all courtesy. We reject the idea that we're still basically on the same team. Now, if you think that's weird, you think that's kind of, off topic here, let me just give you an example. An example of a leader that didn't lead. An example of a guy that, I guess, in my mind would be, not up to the task, wanting a bigger job when he failed to deliver on the one that he had. And again, this is my opinion. And I will comment on it because I did have the opportunity to have a Zoom meeting. And I asked the guy 2 questions. And I'll just say they were less than impressive answers. When you're the chairman of a county party and you can't tell me how many precinct chairs you had the last month and how many you've recruited and what methods you've used to recruit them, and you tell me that you've got a little bit of money in the bank, and it just, I don't know. I guess this is just the situation that you got a guy that's got a disconnect. Now, these same accusations were thrown upon actually the last 3 GOP chairmen of Collin County. And I was there. And it was not a majority ever that felt that way. Maybe it was a majority of those that showed up, but not a majority of the actual sitting precinct chairs. Now, the first guy, he kind of made matters worse. The second guy, he escaped that by, doing the right thing, right? And the other guy, he stepped down for medical issues. But it doesn't matter because the folks in Collin County, we're too busy going after our own. We're just too busy. So I see that this was posted on X, so it's not like it's anything new. It's nothing that, is anything special here. But this is out in Smith County. Now, that's Tyler, folks. In Tyler, which is like uber red county, Smith County is, there are 26 of the 50 precinct chairs that signed this. They felt strongly enough about their chairman is not doing the job. And they're not going to support him to be the vice chair. They want him to actually do the job they gave him. They want him to actually, fulfill the duties. I'm not sure that perhaps it wouldn't be appropriate to put out a vote of no confidence, but I guess when you put out a vote of 26 of 50 stating that you're not going to support this guy running for vice chair, that's pretty significant. I mean, realistically, you would think that the county would rally around a successful leader, somebody that done a good job for him. I think Collin County overwhelmingly is going to support Abraham George as chairman. Yeah, there's people that are unhappy. There's people that are disappointed. There are a lot of people that are just quite unhappy about a lot of things all the time, it seems to me. And I'm not meaning to disparage them because, again, I know a lot of these folks and I have a certain amount of respect and affection for them. I just think they got this wrong. So David Stein, they do not want to support David Stein as the vice chair. I mean, at what point do you have to get to that you can get 26 of 50 precinct chairs willing to sign a document just before you go into the state convention saying, we don't want this person to be the vice chair of the party? That's crazy. But here we are. Here we are. Now, it wouldn't surprise me if you saw some ham-fisted attempt at this out of Collin County, quite frankly, because there are a number of people that seem to have infinite time on their hands that are just unhappy with everybody all the time. So, I don't think they're going to get 51% of the precinct chairs anyhow. They might get 25 out of the 150 or whatever we've got, but even still, I can tell you who 12 of those people are off the top of my head without even having to think about it. That being said, as we wrap it up tonight, let me just say that I'm excited about this. I think it matters. I think that if you're going to make a stand, this is the place, this is the time to do it. The convention determines the direction of the party for the next 2 years. The party pushes and pulls our elected officials to do the right thing as the party has determined it is. And without that, we get nothing. Without that, we would see none of the positive things that have come out. And what's kind of disappointing to me is if the newspaper and some of the moderates out there are complaining that we're too hard right, boy, if they only knew. If they were only aware of what might otherwise be supported, if not for the moderating influence of the convention or the elected officials for that matter. I'm just here to tell you, folks, I know a lot of these folks. I consider myself one of them. What we get is weak milquetoast stuff. Don't get me wrong, I'll take it. Generally, it's a good thing, but we could do so much more. We could be so much better if we would just be willing to stake the ground and do the right thing. And with that, this has been According to Callus, live from San Antonio. And I will see you on the other side.